You could be watching it in 50 years' time. Easy. I'll not be here, sadly, but...
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're paying tribute to some of the great actors we lost in 2022.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
For this memorial, we'll be looking at the most notable thespians who passed away in the last year. Share your favorite performances of these actors in the comments below. Sidney Poitier.
Sometimes it's like I can see my future just stretched out in front of me, my whole future. A big, blank, empty space full of nothing, just hanging at the edge of my days waiting for me, Mom.
Ironically, this acclaimed actor will probably be more remembered for everything he accomplished outside of his performances. After a star-making turn in 1963's Lilies of the Field, Poitier became the second ever Black performer to win an Academy Award, and the first to do so in the Best Actor category.
Good luck, Charlie, and you deal me out. Yeah, you know that stuff you wear, you think it's a uniform that makes you some kind of a cop or something, laying down the law.
Beyond acting, he served as a Bahamian diplomat and was even knighted by Queen Elizabeth II herself. Poitier earned both an honorary Academy Award and a BAFTA Fellowship for his lifetime achievements, not just as an actor, but as a human being. If the outpouring of support after his passing is any indication, Poitier will be remembered for years to come.
What do they call you up there?
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Bob Saget.
Why don't we take a little look through the old family photo album, huh?
Why? I wouldn't remember anything.
Yeah, but let's just give it a shot. It might help.
Full House lives on as one of the most beloved television sitcoms of all time, and that is in no small part thanks to the Tanner's heartfelt patriarch. Bob Saget's Danny didn't just raise Michelle, Stephanie, and DJ. He ostensibly parented a whole generation of viewers. Saget retained all of that same character-defining warmth in the sequel series Fuller House, too.
Now that I'm carrying your grandchild, we're officially family.
Kimmy, we always were.
But outside of acting, his final years were mostly spent as a prolific comedian. His 2014 album, That's What I'm Talking About, even nabbed him a Grammy nomination. Saget was in the middle of a stand-up tour in Florida when a presumed fall in his hotel room laid the 65-year-old actor to rest.
We stuck it out and we got through it. Just like we always do. Just like we always will.
Gaspard Ulliel.
Scent of her takes away the smell of the camp. Do you compose verse, Inspector?
Louis Anderson.
My father. Always yelling, always telling us what to do.
Monica Vitti. William Hurt.
You cost me a hell of a lot, Joey. A hell of a lot.
After revealing a prostate cancer diagnosis in 2018, Hurt peacefully passed away at his Oregon home 4 years later. It marked the final bow for an actor that had been at the top of his game since the 80s. In 1985, the acclaimed Kiss of the Spider-Woman earned Hurt global recognition and an Academy Award for Best Actor.
The nicest thing about feeling happy is that you think you'll never feel unhappy again.
Hurt spun that success into a lengthy career full of eclectic characters and quirky guest spots, including 3 other Oscar nominations. It's never easy to see an actor this bold go, but at least at the age of 71, Hurt had left a lengthy and esteemed filmography to remember him by.
I just wanted to tell you how great you were.
Estelle Harris.
So, how are you, Jerry?
Fine, Miss Costanza. Hey, I got a terrific joke for you.
Nah, not interested.
No one could steal a scene quite like this feisty actress, no matter the series, medium, or tone. So whether it was children's shows like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody or an adult sitcom like Seinfeld, Harris always sold each and every punchline. Her impeccable comedic timing even extended to voiceover, where she made a total standout turn as Mrs. Potato Head in the Toy Story franchise.
Sweet potato! Who do you think you're talking to? I have over 30 accessories and I deserve more respect!
Anyone who can hold their own in a cast that stacked definitely knows their stuff. After her lengthy career spitting sass across all media, Harris passed away from natural causes in 2022. Gilbert Gottfried.
Boy, is he funny or what? How can you follow John Stamos?
There are precious few performers, period, who have a voice as iconic as Gilbert Gottfried did. But instead of resting on the laurels of his hilarious delivery, the actor put his talent to work in some truly transcendent performances. After all, Gottfried's outstanding turn in Aladdin single-handedly turned Iago from a generic henchman into a bona fide fan favorite.
Oh, wait a minute, Jafar. What if you were the chump husband?
He did the same with almost every role, even if he only had one line like in the Aflac commercials. He made 67 years still feel way too short, but at least his 2017 self-titled documentary Gilbert lives on as the best kind of dedication an actor could ask for.
I'm just doing anything to avoid my regular act, which I'm so tired of.
Mike Haggerty.
I got something you can do.
What is it?
Can you be my dancing partner?
Ray Liotta.
What are you saying, that you don't love me anymore? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
In 1986, a small film called Something Wild marked the breakthrough performance of a certain up-and-coming actor. As the world would soon learn, his name was Ray Liotta. Then, with a Golden Globe nomination to his name, Liotta went on to become one of the most respected actors of his time. To this day, he's best known for his star-making performance in Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
But to say he peaked in 1990 is a disservice to everything he did after. Liotta worked consistently in film, television, and even video games up until his death in 2022. In fact, he was in the middle of production on yet another film when he unfortunately passed away.
Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking.
And now it's all over.
Joe Turkel.
Yes, it is, Mr. Torrance. What'll it be?
James Caan.
What did he say? Bada beep, bada bap, bada boop, bada beep. He wants us to send Michael to hear the proposition. And the promise is that the deal is so good that we can't refuse. Hey.
The Godfather needs no introduction, and neither does the actor behind Vito's oldest son, Sonny. James Caan was one of the last remaining true stars of Hollywood, and not just because of his Academy Award nomination. No, mainly because he had a knack for imbuing even the zaniest of characters with a real sense of purpose. From gritty dramas like The Gambler to lighthearted holiday flicks like Elf, Caan never gave anything less than his absolute best.
Where do you want me to go?
I don't care where you go. I don't care that you're an elf. I don't care that you're nuts. I don't care that you're my son. Get out of my life, now!
Which clearly was pretty damn good. When he died from a heart attack at the age of 82, he left behind about as many excellent films as he had years in his life.
You've been right about a lot of things. I don't want you to leave. You're my son, and I love you.
Tony Sirico.
These are snakes with fur. The old Italians will tell you, you can't even put them around the baby. They suck the breath right out.
It's exceedingly rare to find an actor that inhabits a character so well that you can't see them the same ever again. That was definitely the case with Tony Sirico, whose turn on The Sopranos is impossible to look away from. Though it shouldn't have been surprising, given that Sirico was practically a veteran of the business by the time he auditioned. But even 15 years after the show's end, nothing in Sirico's resume could match the legacy of what he did on The Sopranos. Alas, Sirico's career had slowed down a bit in his final years. He passed away in summer of 2022, just a few weeks shy of his 80th birthday.
We could have had a shrine, sold holy water in gallon jugs, could have made billions.
I tell you something deep in my heart, and you laugh it off?
Paul Sorvino.
You gotta take it easy. You got children. I'm not saying you gotta go back there this minute, but you gotta go back.
It takes some serious skill to convincingly play characters on both sides of the law. But Sorvino always made it look easy. It's all the more impressive since his breakout role was as a gangster in Goodfellas. Though clearly he wasn't anything like that behind the scenes, since he has a truly gigantic resume of all sorts of dramatic roles. Some good, some evil, but always with a certain edge that only Sorvino could truly capture.
It's just that, in case you had to drag it out of him, We ought to know that before his lawyer comes on board.
The 83-year-old actor passed away in 2022, leaving behind a filmography that speaks for itself. He's survived by his wife and 3 kids, 2 of which are actors themselves. Nichelle Nichols.
We were forced in the transporter and beamed down. It was like becoming someone's puppet.
It's impossible to quantify how much modern media owes the original Star Trek series, or more specifically, Nichelle Nichols' unforgettable performance as Nyota Uhura. She was one of the very first Black women to play a major role in a big-budget TV show, let alone as a character with genuine agency and purpose. Despite Nichols' love for the stage, she stayed on the show specifically because of the impact Uhura had. Her love and dedication is evident to this day, and led to a truly groundbreaking revolution for representation on the small screen. Nichols would reprise the role in the original Star Trek films, and later continued to preach Uhura's influence until her death in the summer of 2022.
My fears would fade, and now they're making me tremble. But I'm not afraid.
Olivia Newton-John. Grease really was the word, and it launched its pair of charming leads to utter stardom and beyond. But Newton-John wasn't just a household name actress. She was also a best-selling music artist, an environmentalist, a mother, and more. Her legacy in pop culture is unmatched, which is why it's all the more impressive that she had breast cancer at the same time. After an original diagnosis in 1992, Newton-John faced the disease on 2 more separate occasions in the 30 years that followed. Unfortunately, its recurrence in 2017 took the 73-year-old actor's life earlier this year. In the aftermath, co-stars, colleagues, and even full countries gave their respect to an actress that was the definition of a multi-hyphenate.
I honestly love you.
Anne H.
We were sweet on each other for about 2 minutes, but it didn't work out. You know, he never really said it, but I think it hurt him to be around me.
Perhaps the biggest tragedy of this actress's untimely end is that most people will only remember her final minutes. H was a busy, hard-working, and versatile actress on stage, screen, and beyond. Despite a few personal ups and downs and her infamous relationship with Ellen DeGeneres, H never turned in a bad performance. Unfortunately, the biggest headline of her death is that it came as the result of a 3-part car crash with H behind the wheel. The actress sustained severe injuries and was eventually pulled off life support. There have been plenty of rumors surrounding H's mental state at the time of the accident, but for now, the only thing we know for sure is that Hollywood has lost another great thespian.
Listen, I live in love, I live in truth, and I stood up for it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I stand up for this very same thing today.
Louise Fletcher.
Those are very challenging observations you made, Randall. I'm sure some of the men would like to comment.
If Louise Fletcher's legacy says anything, it's that it's never too late for a big break. After taking an 11-year hiatus to raise her sons, Fletcher returned to acting in one-off guest spots and smaller roles. Then, she nabbed the part of Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which propelled her into the next big thing. She received an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, and a BAFTA for her performance, becoming only the 3rd actress ever to earn all 3 honors for a single role. She steadily worked well into the 2000s and eventually passed away at the age of 88 in her home in France.
Now calm down. The best thing we can do is go on with our daily routine.
Angela Lansbury. Iconic, she wrote, because that's what Angela Lansbury was. She headlined one of the most prolific and widely known crime dramas of all time.
I'm curious about one thing. How did you figure it out?
Partly luck, partly deduction.
And that's not even mentioning her prolific film career, which includes singing the iconic title number in Beauty and the Beast.
Tale as old as time, true as it can be.
Her legacy is unprecedented, and yet even that fails to do her impact justice. To put it into perspective, she is among the elite club to have been nominated for a Tony, an Oscar, an Emmy, a Grammy, and a Golden Globe. We could go on, but you get the point. Suffice it to say, she lived a very full life before finally passing away in her sleep at the age of 96.
It makes me very proud indeed, and I am most grateful and thankful to the Hollywood Press Association for giving me this Golden Globe. for an old golden oldie.
Robbie Coltrane.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
A wizard. And a thumping good, and I'd wager.
The wizarding world has always produced some downright magical casting. So when Coltrane's imposing yet soft-spoken Hagrid stumbled onto the scene in 2001, the results were practically spellbinding. Coltrane brought a real sense of sincerity to the friendly half-giant throughout the entire franchise. Of course, he had plenty of other worthwhile roles too, but there's a good reason Hagrid lives on as his best known. With that being said, it's fitting that his final on-screen appearance is in the 20th anniversary Return to Hogwarts special. Coltrane says it best himself in the documentary. Even when he's gone, Hagrid and the magic he brought will live on forever.
You could be watching it in 50 years' time. Easy. I'll not be here, sadly, but don't you think on it for 1 minute. But Hagrid will.
Michael Kopsa.
The fugitives have a plan. Tell me about the plan.
Most viewers probably recognize this guy's face from his chilling turn as Captain Windmark in Fringe, alongside several other genre-heavy programs. But in actuality, it's more likely audiences have heard his voice instead. For as many acting credits as Kopsa boasts, a good half of those are specifically in voiceover. Some of his most notable roles include Beast in X-Men Evolution and Char Aznable in the English dub of Mobile Suit Gundam.
Looks like I'm not destined to get a break these days, am I? Who would have thought I'd bump into something like this on the way home from a routine mission?
That's right, he did both original animation and anime dubbing. Clearly, Kopsa had a knack for showing up just about anywhere. As a result, several pop culture communities mourned his death at the age of just 66.
Thank you. But from here on in, I'm not just Mr. McCoy. You can call me Beast.
Leslie Jordan.
The very idea makes me howl with manly laughter.
Comedy is a tough field to stay relevant in, but Leslie Jordan managed to keep things light, breezy, and fun for literal decades. Chief among his standout roles is that of Karen's nemesis Beverly Leslie on Will and Grace. He earned an Emmy for the role, and later reprised it for the show's revival in 2017. While Beverly is probably his most well-known part, Jordan's appeared in so many comedy series that it's impossible to name them all. In fact, almost poetically, he was on his way to set for another sitcom when he died in a car crash. The show, Call Me Kat, dedicated an episode to Jordan, a comedic legend who kept everyone laughing until the very end.
I'm a big believer in celebrating every moment.
Kevin Conroy.
My parents taught me a very different lesson. Life only makes sense if you force it to.
Batman the Animated Series is rightfully lauded for its unprecedented effect on the industry. But of course, its biggest claim to fame is introducing the actor who would define the Caped Crusader for decades. Kevin Conroy's commanding gruffness is simply untouchable. He took a great character and made him legendary, which is why it's no surprise that he became the de facto voice of Batman until his death in 2022. Whether it was video games, animation, or something else, Batman never would and never will feel the same without Conroy behind the mic. After all, even though he's gone, he'll always be the Knight, and he'll always be Batman.
I am not a disgrace. I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
John Aniston.
What I really want is the respect of this town. A respect I deserve considering all I've done for it.
Jason David Frank.
No one may know you are a Power Ranger.
Count on me, Zordon. 100%.
There's no Power Rangers without Tommy Oliver. Sure, Jason David Frank was a late addition to the original cast, but his immediate popularity has stayed with the franchise to this day. No Ranger reunion has felt complete without an appearance by the best Ranger there ever was, and Frank never took that for granted. He was extremely active in the fan community and on the convention circuit, which made his abrupt death at just 49 years old all the more shocking. It's no exaggeration to say Frank was a childhood hero for a whole generation. So while his premature death is tragic, the show's motto still rings true. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger.
The Power Ranger legacy is in good hands.
Wilco Johnson.
Pardon me, sir.
Did I frighten you so much, girl? Or is
it him there making you shake?
Clarence Gilliard.
No badge, just you and me.
We have nothing to talk about.
What, are you afraid of your little brother?
Bob McGrath.
But you know something? We can all be very happy that we had a chance to be with him and to know him and to love him a lot.
Kirstie Alley.
Mr. Sulu, plot an intercept course.
May I remind the captain that if a starship enters the zone,
I'm aware of my responsibilities, mister.
Few actresses have the luxury of making their film debut in a movie like Star Trek II. Then again, Alley had a real penchant for arriving late to a series and becoming the life of the party. She did the same thing with Cheers, where she swooped in after 5 seasons and became an instant fan favorite.
You've got 2 outs, 2 strikes, and no balls.
Critics agreed too, and Alley walked home with an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her portrayal of Rebecca Howe. She worked very consistently in the years after Cheers ended, even well into 2022. So it was a tough blow to the world when she suddenly passed away due to colon cancer. Her time on The Masked Singer marked her final on-screen role.
I came on Masked Singer because about 10 years ago I realized I always had to keep mixing my career, mixing my life up, or it was going to get really mundane, it was going to get really boring fast, so I guess I finally got up the nerve to do it.
Helen Slayton Hughes.
My only regret is that I never told him how I really felt. So I'll say it now. I loved that man.